Gentlemen, welcome to the Formidable Family Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning, and today we've got a formidable family man coming from sunny Southern California. I'm super excited about this conversation. We're going to hit a lot of stuff. I'm sure we are going to talk about fitness, family, and finances today, among other things. So, Ashton, super grateful to have you here, brother. Will you just give us kind of your background, your story? Tell us about yourself and your family, and maybe even dive into some of those things you said were like a core foundation to shape you into who you are.
Yeah. So Ashton Buswell, Ashton Mitchell Buswell is my name. Live in sunny San Diego and love it here. My wife never wants to leave. We've been here 14 years, but I'm not originally from here. I was born in Colorado, kind of raised in Kansas, moved to Montana, moved to Utah, and finished high school in Utah. So I kind of claim I'm from Kansas and Utah. Those are the places where I'm from mostly. And now as an adult, I'm from San Diego and we love it here. It was just before we started kind of recording here, I said there's a few things that have kind of shaped who I am. So to just dive right into that, like right at the start, is one that I moved around a lot. Like as a kid, I understood what it felt like to be the one, because I was the one. When I moved to a new place, I was looking around I was like by myself and I didn't have any other friends, and I was the one. And I was looking for my brother at lunch. I was lucky enough to have a brother older than me and younger than me. When I moved, each time I had a brother that I could kind of look out for. But that shaped a lot of who I am. My faith in God and my religious beliefs has really shaped me a lot of who I am. I come from a big family. I come from a family of 8 kids with incredibly tremendous parents that has really shaped me a ton. I was as middle as you get. I was the 4th kid. We actually had there was 5 kids, and the oldest was 5 at one point, and it was boy, girl, boy, boy, boy. So it was like condensed, lots of us all together. And my sister, that was the girl, is the toughest of all of us of that group. She kind of had to be, but that shaped me a lot of who I am. And then wrestling. I wrestled I'm a sports guy. I'm 5'7" 3/4. You wouldn't believe it, but I was the MVP for the state of Utah in football my senior year, helped my team win state.
Nice.
And whatever. But I at 5'7" 3/4 white guy, I didn't have a lot of chance like going on any further in football, but I did in wrestling. I actually wrestled for the United States of America as a 15-year-old in the World Championships and the World Youth Games, and then went on to college. And my freshman year, I won junior college nationals with a broken hand, which was a cool story. And then served a mission for my church and came back and wrestled at the University of North Carolina. And wrestling has been such a big part of my life. I actually got back into wrestling as a 40-year-old. 2 years ago, I wrestled at the US Open and got myself in good enough shape to do that. And this year, and in like a month and a half, I'm going to be in Croatia wrestling again for the United States of America in the Masters Wrestling Championship. Should be dang cool.
Sir.
Should be dang cool.
That is awesome. And Croatia's amazing. I love it over there. So go for
haven't been yet. I'm excited.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, hold on. So I want to put a couple things together there. Moving around a lot isn't always easy. In fact, most of the people I talk to, in fact, a lot of people I've talked to that moved around a lot, they hate it. They bemoan it. They complain about it. It's like it's this thorn in their flesh. It's the reason why they can't X, Y, Z, whatever. And then, it's a real struggle. And then wrestling is tough, man. Anything that's like any kind of fight, any combatives, any martial arts, you really get into it, it is tough. And wrestling especially is brutal.
Yeah.
And 2 of the things you mentioned that were really formative for you, they were hard. Like let's dive into that a little bit there. Let's kind of expound on that and why that matters.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I had never thought of it like that. I mean, faith can be hard too, right? My religious beliefs and that can be hard at times, but those 2 things for sure, moving around a lot. The funny thing about moving around a lot, there's 8 kids in my family, and the younger, let's say 2, didn't really move that many times. I guess my youngest sister was born in Kansas, lived in Montana, and then, before her 3rd birthday, she lived in 3 states, but she didn't remember it all, right? So she's from Utah, essentially. That's where she grew up, and the one just older than her was younger too. but we all grew a ton, and we are all so grateful that we moved, and none of us want to move because it was so hard.
Oh
We
wait,
don't want to do that to our kids
so
because it
now
was like,
you're all like, we have planted and we're staying.
yeah, yeah. My little sister just moved from Tremont, Utah, down to St. George, Utah. Her oldest kid is a ninth grader, and that's a hard time to move. And then she's got a middle school, junior high, and then one in elementary school. And we're like, yeah, we know what that's like. Like we 100% know what that's like. But we don't know that we want to do that to our own kids. But I'm so
Right.
grateful for it because it was so challenging, right? To get in, to find a new friend group, to like have to reconnect. Like I said, I learned a lot of what developed me as like an empathetic person is like I was the guy that
Yep.
I wanted people to like say hi to me, you know,
Same. That
and
was my story
I
too.
had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because when I was incredibly shy and timid, and I felt so isolated, so lonely, so desperate for anyone to even notice me or to have friends and connections. Same, and that drives so much of the empathy I have now. And when people are struggling, it's like, yeah, I get it because I
I know what that
remember
feels like.
how much it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's super important. And brother, you bring up such a fascinating point. As parents, sometimes we want to avoid doing the things that are really hard because they're really hard, right? We're like, no, I don't want to do that to my family, or I don't want to go through that because it's so much work. And yet you and I are both saying, man, it was the hard stuff
The
that was
best
so
thing.
formative.
Yeah.
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 And I think that's one of the temptations that we as fathers have to kind of keep at bay of to make it too easy for our kids.
Oh,
And we want
totally.
to. We want to, give them all these nice things. We want to make their lives like, let me help you out, son. And sometimes helping them out is maybe one of the worst things we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's funny. I think in my mind, because our world is so, it is so easy for our kids. And I guess not for every kid, right? There's, depending on your circumstance, but I mean, most poorest people in the world have a cell phone, right? Which
Yep.
wasn't around before. And anyway, I think in my mind, like, how can I teach my kids to work hard? How can I teach them discipline? How can I teach them some of the hard lessons that I learned? But at the same time, like, but I don't want to move. Like, I don't want to do that to them, you know, like, how can I, so it's hard as a parent to like, to want both without having the actual
Right?
experience of, the hardest thing. That's a hard balance for sure.
It's
Yeah.
tough. Okay,
Yeah.
one thing you got seriously going for you though, and let's talk about that, is not only did you wrestle at high level, you're doing it again. And your kids get to watch you not only compete, which is cool, but they get to watch you train.
Yeah.
And in my observation, I'm working with thousands of men, and in my own experience with our 7 children, like having your kids watch you train, watch you push, watch you overcome obstacles, watch you struggle is one of the very best things we can do for our children.
Yeah. 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 The crazy thing about this wrestling journey that I'm on right now is I thought it was just going to be a one and done thing at the US Open 2 years ago. I saw some buddies do it. The last few years, I've had some really good, healthy goals that helped me get into like really good shape. Each year I've come up with something new that would like help me be stronger, faster, and I'm not stronger, faster, but just like healthy, like fit
Yep. Same.
and healthy. And one of the years was like, I should wrestle. My buddies are doing that. I've seen them do it a couple of years in a row. I should totally do that wrestling. And we went to the US Open. I was anticipating a one and done experience, but I was two different matches that I had while I was on the mat where the refs had to talk about something, and I could hear my kids screaming for me, cheering me on, and it hit me, man. I'm sure choking up about it right now, but I'm on the mat, supposed to be smashing some dude's face in the mat, and I'm getting choked up because I became real present to like not very many people get to see their 40-year-old dad scrapping with another, wrestling which is a really difficult sport. And there's no like pickup wrestling. You know what I mean? There's pickup
Exactly.
basketball, and,
Exactly.
but there's no like,
Neighborhood pickup wrestling.
yeah, just come on down. We're gonna have some pickup wrestling. Like that doesn't exist. My wife's like, I love, and my kids loved it so much, and my wife loved it so much that I was like, I got to do this again because it was
Yeah.
so fulfilling for me to be out there and having them like be in my corner too. You know, like I'm always in their corner, but then now I had an opportunity for them to be in my corner and to feel like, what
Wow.
does that feel like to support dad? You know, and
Wow.
mom, like in a different way. So it was really
Yeah.
cool. So I was like, dang, I got to do it again. So I did it again. And then I also thought like one of the things like that I made on social media a while ago is, what are you doing to inspire you?
Yep.
And I put some thought into that because I want to inspire people. Like I want to inspire my kids. The pump fake of all of it is I hope you get inspired. I hope my coworkers get inspired. I hope some guy that I don't even know in Texas sees my stuff and gets inspired, right?
Yep.
And I hope that that's part of it. But like, what am I doing to inspire me? If I'm not doing something that's inspiring me enough, it's not going to inspire my kids to the level that it could. It's not going to inspire other
Amen.
people to the level that it could. You know what I mean? And I thought,
Yep.
what a cool experience to take my kids to Croatia, taking my wife and my 4 kids. My mom and dad are coming to go have
Yes.
Buswell and USA on the back of my singlet. And I want to win. I totally want to win. I want to win some matches. I want to win the gold. I want to come home with that. But man, if I do or if I don't, it honestly doesn't matter. And I'm not going to put tons of pressure on myself to win, even though I really badly want to. And I'm training like I'm going to, and I'm putting all the mental reps in, and I'm putting in the physical reps, and I'm at the gym and I'm doing all those things. Like whether I win or I don't win, to be on that mat with my kids and my wife chanting USA, and I'm the one they're chanting for. Dude, that'll be amazing. Why am I getting so touchy and crying today, dude? But it's meaningful. It's
Because it's
meaningful
ours, right? Exactly. It's the meaning.
because yeah, I get to be somebody that my kids someday will be like, I need to marry a man that
Yep.
does cool
Like
stuff
that.
like my dad, that pushes himself like my dad, that challenges himself and does big things because that's what my dad did. And I want my husband to do the same. And like, yeah, I want you to find a man that's going to be pushing themselves and doing the best they can in all areas of life. And then part of the challenge, I know this is your audience, is trying to be balanced. And I think balance is a misnomer. I think
Agreed.
I've got the framework for a book called The Balanced Life for Sales Professionals. I'm a sales guy creating a sales course, but the pump fake is that it's actually not about balance, it's about harmony. How can I have harmony
Exactly.
in all the different areas
Yep.
of my life so that when I have my relationship with my wife, it's harmonious and my kids is harmonious, and I'm going to work more hours than I'm going to in a day than I'm going to spend with my family, which if you think about it, that royally sucks. But as long as there's harmony there, then it kind of it works out. Anyway, so
Yeah.
as I'm
Powerful.
as
Love
I'm
it.
yeah, going through, I want my kids to see that dad did all these things. Oh, sorry, I went off this tangent about the harmony because we can get lost. I can get so focused on my wrestling that I don't perform very well at work, and I don't have enough finances, and I don't perform very well at home, and I'm not healthy there. Right? It's important that there's harmony and balance through all of it so that you're not one-sided. It's unfortunate when people get so into their finances and so into their work that they lose their marriage and their kids. And that happens sometimes, and no judgment, but it just is sad
That
to me
it happens
that
a lot.
happens,
It happens
Yeah,
too much. And I think you're
too
right.
much.
I love the word harmony and all that stuff. The word I like to use, optimization. I think it's probably the same thing. We
Yeah.
optimize our lives so that it works,
Yep.
because it's easy to get uh, way off of balance, right? And to lose the things that matter most. And I love how you're leaning in. This is so awesome. It's a great example, brother, because you're leaning into fitness at a super high level for your family and with your
Mm,
family. And
yeah.
and one thing I love to say that you touched on is, it is incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to be inspiring if we ourselves are not inspired, right? And then you talked about that, inspiring yourself and pushing yourself so that we can be the example for our kids and be the
Yeah.
example for others who are watching. We don't know who are watching. And
Yeah.
man, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love that. Hey, let's
Yeah.
let's
Go ahead.
there's a good lead in there to kind of your training habits and routines and rituals. Let's talk about that for a minute. Like what is so somebody who's watching is like this is inspiring and I want to be more fit because I hear this is awesome. My son went to a camp. It was kind of this men and boys camp, and he was in a different country. He went and like most of the guys were in their early 40s, and he said they were all like a little overweight and tired, and they were all sitting around like, man, once you hit 40, just going down. You just and they were saying to him, you can't be fit and healthy after 40. Like you just your body stops. You can't. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like my dad's still fit, still pushing hard. Like no, no, he must be taking something or whatever, right? Uh, but what are you doing day in and day out? What do the routines look like? What's food look like? What's fitness look like? Give us some of the strategies that are working for you.
Yeah, some of the nuts and bolts. So I do a couple things, and I am not a superhero by any means, but I'm trying to be a superhero in the eyes of my kids. And where I think you win is, and I go back to this all the time, is consistent effort over time. Consistent
Yes.
effort over time always wins. If I had a Twinkie for breakfast, lunch, and dinner consistently over time, I would get results, and it'd probably be called diabetes. You know what I mean? I would get some bad results. If I did it consistently over time, I would get results. So the same goes on the positive, you could go to the gym and work for 20 hours in a day, and you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. But
Right.
if you went for an hour a day for 20 days, you're going to get a whole heck of a lot more out of it, right? So consistent effort over time is how you win. Something that I try to do every day is I try to have meaningful connections with the most important parts of my life before 10 o'clock every day, or 9 o'clock if I can. So some of my nuts and bolts routines is the meaningful connection. And I used to not be, and I'm still not like an early riser. If it were up to me, I'd be a night owl all the time and everything would start later in the day. Maybe I should move to Portugal or something, because I know some things
Yeah,
start
exactly.
later.
Or Spain.
Spain, yeah, yeah. But anyway, I'm up at 5 o'clock and I connect with my God. I pray and read my scriptures, and then I am at the gym at 5:30, and I'm at the gym from 5:30 to 6:30 on my way to the gym. And I have a workout partner, so sometimes I got earbuds in and I'm listening to books and I'm listening to good things pouring into my brain uh, at the gym. But sometimes I'm connecting with him and having some social connection. But on the way to and the way back, I'm definitely listening to things. So I connect with my body, I connect with my mind before I get home, and then I have the blessing of waking up my kids. It works out with my work schedule that I get to wake up my kids, and that's hour from 6:45 in the morning to 7:45 in the morning is my most sacred hour of my day, because that's when I get to be with my kids and I'm like all in with my kids. So I wake them up and we joke and we play and I get them breakfast, and then I get them up, we pray together before they leave for the school bus or for school. And then my wife she'll go, and then after we've got the kids all off, then that's my time for me to have a meaningful connection with my wife. Now, if I've done that by 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., I've connected with my God,
Huge.
with my body, with my mind, and with every one of my kids and my wife. That's a crazy successful day. And so that morning has been really important for me, and it's changed over time, right? It's changed as time's gone on, and sometimes I wouldn't wake up as early, and I would do do some things, and I would work out a little bit later, and so it's just, I think we need to be like flexible to what our life circumstances are, but those things are super important for me. And then at the end of the night, I try to work. So if that's done by like 9 or 10, then I've got a lot of hours to work. We try to have scripture study at 8:15. So I'm trying to, and my job, I'm 100% commission solar sales guy. I'm creating a course on sales, and for new salespeople or people that are trying to learn how to build relationships and things. So hopefully that becomes a big part of who my work life as well. But I'm trying to be done by like 8 o'clock so that I can have some time before scripture study to bond. And that's not a whole lot of extra time, but then we have scripture study, and then we talk about the day, and then we pray together. and then spend a little bit of time and then put the kids to bed. That gives me a lot of hours in the day to work, but
Yeah.
having some harmonious experiences in the morning, right, with all of the parts of my most important relationships, and then again at night, make a big difference for me. Kind of the bookends of my day are a little more structured and help me to have really powerful days.
Yes, I love that. It's man, so many similarities. I love this because again, my core, and I think we've had a very similar journey. You get up every morning and you address your mind, body, and spirit, which you're doing, and then you're connecting with your kids, and then with your wife, and that's all before you start your workday, right?
Yeah.
I have a curiosity here. What are you doing with your cell phone from the time you get up until the time you leave from work?
So, great question. You leave my cell phone in the car, or like when I go exercise. One of the things that I talk about flipping switches, like a light switch, like turn your brain on and off when it's time to be on and off of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
my phone's on do not disturb basically until after I take the kids, kids at 7:45, 8 o'clock. That's when I'll like turn my phone back on to like on,
Yes.
where I can then I'll respond or hear text messages and things like that. But that wasn't always the case, right? And as I'm kind of developing things, I'm spending some time journaling, and I need to get better at like booking journaling time into my day, because I think that's really healthy, and I don't really do that much right now. When I was doing that, I had my phone because I would kind of do some timer stuff with my phone, and then I would go down these rabbit holes, man, and I just would find myself
Yes.
responding to things or looking at different stuff, or then I would start to think about work things because, oh crap, I got this going on today that I forgot about, or you know what I mean? Like I start getting into my work sooner than I want. And so now I just keep it on do not disturb, and I'm human. If I pick up my phone to go to the gym because I know my workout partner is not going to be there and I want to listen to some audiobooks or something like that, I might see some text message and I'd be like, well, maybe I'll just like look
Exactly.
at it.
And like, I was supposed to be hitting some reps here, and now I'm responding to text messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try really, really, really hard not to respond, but I might look at them. I might look at them and just know what I need to respond to in an hour, but
Yep.
the times that I can not do that is better, because I'm just giving myself my brain and my mind like that, like you said, that mind, body, and spirit connection and connection with the most important relationships. So yeah, I'm trying.
So
I'm trying.
important,
It's not
man.
perfect,
So,
but
so,
trying.
so important. And I can totally relate to you on all of that. And I find the more often, because I like to go into airplane mode. So when I'm going to bed, I just kick it on airplane mode. So it's not, it's not in the bedroom sending off radiation or whatever distraction. And then it, I find that if I can the longer I leave it off, the better the mornings, and the better the
Mm,
mornings, the better the day, the better the
yeah.
day, the better the life goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, I love technology. It is so powerful, and we get so much done with it. But we have got to be so diligent about keeping it in its place.
Yeah.
And I think as dads, we've got to be leading that example for our kiddos, because they grow up not knowing any different. I mean, your kids, my kids, they've just known nothing but screens, right?
Yeah.
They're-
Yeah.
It came along during our lifetime, but their lifetime, that's all they know. And
And it's
we've got to
hard.
say,
It's
hey,
hard
there's a place.
it's hard as a dad. There's been tons of studies about screens with kids and social media with kids and tons of things, right? And again, no judgment like on my end of any of those things, but it's hard as a dad to want to help my kid see that there's a time and a place for these things,
Yes.
because they see me like I'm 100% commission sales guy. I make money if I answer the phone and respond. Like that's how I'm able to provide fruit for you, kid. Like, but to you, it's just like, well, you're
Entertainment.
always on your phone, dad. Why can't I be on my
Exactly.
phone? Well,
Yeah.
because you're not putting food on the table while answering your phone. You're just like doing some silly game with your friend that's like not
Yeah.
important, or looking at other people and what their highlight reel is, like it's really hard. But I think really also really important for us as dads to like help our kids make sure that we give them enough that they can have some technology, because whether we like it or not, they're going to be faced with technology forever. right? So they need to be underneath our tutelage a little bit while they have access to it, I think. But at the same time, helping them see what its place is, like you said, putting it in its place. This tool is just that. It's just a tool. You and I are here in person. This is the most important thing right here, right now. And when you're in person with your friends, it's more important to be there with them than be on your cell phone doing stuff. You're there, and whatever. So
if we can teach them that presence, right, and to be face to face and be with people, that's so powerful. I love that.
Yeah.
Great insight.
Yeah.
Hey, before I forget, let's hit a little bit on food. Just because I know you're lean, right? You're shredded. You're training for competition. What does that look like for food?
Something that's helped me recently, 2 phrases. Hopefully one of your listeners gets something out of these 2 things. 2 things that have helped me lately is, 1, when I'm about to eat something, I'll ask myself, is this premium fuel?
Yes.
Because when I'm, and yesterday was a bad day for me. I had lots of processed foods and lots of things in packages because it's where I was, it's what I could have. I needed some calories in my body, right? But I'll look at stuff and I'll be like, is this premium fuel? And if it's not premium fuel, I'm trying to create a premium body, right? And if it's not premium fuel, it's not going to really help me that much. And so I try not to put anything that's not premium fuel in my body. So is this premium fuel? And then the other one is the thought that it's okay to be hungry.
Yes.
It's okay to be hungry.
I say that all the time. I was constantly telling my clients, bro, it's okay to be hungry.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I stopped and ate this crap. I'm like, why? They're like, I was hungry. I'm like, so it's okay to be hungry.
It's okay to be hungry.
I love that.
Yes. That's good. So everybody already knows that, but those 2 things have really helped me out a lot because we have so much access to food, right? It's around us all the time. We can, if you're at home and you work from home, God bless mothers that are stay-at-home mothers that are around food all the time and don't balloon up, because when I'm working from home, I'm like, there's that, that treat
Pantry,
that a friend
the
brought over.
fridge.
Yeah, there's so much. So it's hard to be okay being hungry. But those things have really helped me. The other thing, sugar is my vice. I love sugar. And I've actually been really proud of myself that I've had less sugar recently, and I've been trying to replace it with protein. So I have three different protein habits that have helped me. I love cereal, and I've gone through maybe just about every protein cereal that you can find to try to find one that I can actually eat, that I like, that tastes good enough, and that is more healthy for me because it's got more protein in there to kind of satiate my hunger and to give my body the nutrients that it needs. Then I have a protein shake, and I learned a long time ago, and I know there's studies about it, and I could be way off. You probably know more about it, but I've had people talk to me about a metabolic window after you exercise, that you got 20 or 30 minutes to put the best nutrients into your body after you exercise. And I was like, yeah, maybe that's real, maybe that's not. But for my body, it has totally worked. After I work out, I make sure that I get a protein shake into I get protein into me, right after I exercise. And I'm telling my body, this is what I want you to go rebuild. These are the tools, right? This is the fuel I want you to use to go rebuild those muscles that I just broke down. And it's really, really helped me with muscle mass and a little more definition in my muscles.
Right, yeah.
And then the last thing, because at nighttime, I've trained my body my whole life that I end on sweets. I end the day with a cookie. I end on my dinner with some sweets and some pie and some licorice and some whatever. And then, I'd eat it. I would have something after dinner. I usually have something after lunch, and between lunch and dinner, some sweet. And then I'd have dinner, and then I'd have something right after dinner. And then right before bed, I would also have some sweets. I just love sweets, but I've tried really hard to stay away from that. And I have for the most part, but at nighttime, I'm not paid by G2G, but I should get sponsored by them. I love their G2G bars, but I have a G2G bar at the end of the night. That's a protein bar that also has a lot of natural ingredients in it. So there's a fair amount of sugar in it comparative to some of the other ones. But what it does for me at nighttime, instead of grabbing for some, chocolate or licorice or cookies, I'll grab a G2G bar or a half a G2G bar, that gives me some of the sweets to my tongue, but then also satiates my hunger because it's got,
Yep.
it's more protein in there. At nighttime, I'm getting my sweet tooth, but I'm getting protein. And those three things, that shake, the shake right after exercising, my protein cereal instead of regular cereal, and then having a G2G bar or some sort of protein bar at the end of the day, replacing my sweets, has made a big difference for me. And then the thoughts of it's okay to be hungry and
And premium fuel.
and
Oh, I
premium
love that.
fuel.
Premium
Yeah,
fuel.
yeah,
Yes. And that's a
yeah,
great principle there. I think there's something uh really simple and yet profound in saying, well, this thing I like, and this thing, we had this as a kid or whatever, and just saying, how can I just upgrade that a little bit? How can I get a little bit of better replacement? I do something very similar. Is whenever I'm craving sweets, I go to a protein. I just go chase
yeah.
down a protein. Or if I want something sweet, I'm gonna chase down something like one of our family favorites is frozen berries in like
Yes.
whole milk. And it's
Ooh,
just you're getting the antioxidants and the berries with the cream and the fats and the proteins, and we love it, right? And so you're like, oh, I'm craving something. Well, we'll just quickly grab something that's a better option. And it's a simple strategy. It still tastes good, right? Our rule in the family is like it has to be delicious and nutritious.
there you
And
go.
so, like we were gonna enjoy it, and yet it's a little upgrade. It's a little premium upgrade. I love that,
Yep.
man. Premium upgrade.
Little
Just
premium
that's great.
upgrade, premium fuel. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So
That's
good. Thanks
good.
for sharing that, brother. I love that. Let's let's switch to work and finances. Um, chasing financial success, like you already mentioned. Um, it's a real challenge for men. We're driven to be providers, and we're driven to be successful, especially if we're high achievers, right? We have ambition, we have drive, and we want to win, and all
Yeah.
great things. But man, that can get um, out of proportion, or it can become um, a priority over other things. It's so challenging. So what are some things in your career? What have you found that what works to win without sacrificing other things we talked about that matter so much?
Yeah, I think the being really intentional and then just making sure that the most important things are scheduled first, right?
Yes.
Most important that those other parts that we've already talked about, right? Your family, your fitness, your faith, that those are scheduled in already, so that work. If you don't schedule those in, a lot of jobs, and if you're a high achiever, can just completely take over. And and if that happens, then you're kind of in a bad spot. One of the things that for harmony in our home, I go on a weekly date night with my wife, and I
Yeah.
go on a weekly date with one of my daughters. I have 4 daughters. So most of the time there's 4 Tuesdays or 4 weeks in a month, 4.3 weeks in a month. So I go on a date with each of my daughters at least once a week. And that gives them their individual time, that it's just me and them. We get to do fun stuff together. And that really helps for the harmony in my home and in my harmony with my relationship with them. But to some people, like, wow, that's mind blowing. That's crazy. Why do you do that? How do you do that? If it's important enough for me, then I'll make it. And I actually I'm a frugal guy. We spend our money on experiences, right? I'm going to fly my kids to
Same.
Croatia with me. That's going to be expensive.
Same.
And I could probably buy a rental property for what it's going to cost me to take my family to, Croatia, but I'd rather have them have that experience than buy a rental property. Why did I go on that tangent? What was I saying, Greg? This is 40-year-old brain
Well, it's
here.
just investing in experiences, right? Putting the
Oh,
money
and
in.
sorry, I was going with the time with my kids. So if I didn't schedule a date night, then it wouldn't be as important. But I heard somebody one time a little while ago, they were like, look, you should take your wife to nice places,
Yep.
and don't go on a budget. Like, cause I was like, yeah, let's do something fun and maybe we'll do a picnic, and you can do that every once in a while and save some money. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to look at this as like my most important investment and the most important event on my calendar every week is my date night.
Hands down.
Right.
Hands
And so
down.
So if I don't book those in and I let work take over, then I'm going to lose out on some of those most important things. So I know you wanted me to talk about finances and work,
Well, no, but
and I went
this
back
is it.
to those other things.
This is how you keep that in check, and you keep work in a window. Like, I have to succeed within this window, and I'm going to keep that window from encroaching constantly on family time.
Yeah.
Right. And not that, hopefully we get around to the date. And if we get there, we'll just throw something together. We'll just do something because she understands. It's like, no way, man. Make that a premium experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is one of the best times of the week. And we do dates with our kiddos too. And
Yeah.
we're on
That's
a
great.
7-week rotation.
Yeah.
I guess a 5-week rotation. But
Yeah.
dude, dividends, investments in our relationships, it's worth it.
So worth it.
So just quick question on that. Is that just kind of a given now in your calendar just for good? Or do you plan it every month in advance or every year in advance or each week? Do you use an actual calendar and do you schedule it in, or is just it's a given, like every Tuesday I'm on a date with one of my daughters?
The times change, right? As your kids' schedules change and as your life changes and things. So you got to be a little flexible. It used to be every Tuesday. This was what it was. Kids are going when they're in elementary school, and it's a little easier for me to just be like, this is what it is. My wife's that date is that one's set. It's unless something else comes up where, there's a concert we want to go to instead of Friday night. It's on Saturday night, then we'll bump it to another night or whatever. But and now with my kids, it's more of all right, we're going to plan it a week or two in advance. I was going to go on a date with my oldest daughter this week, but she really loves the Padres. And there's a giveaway next Wednesday. So she's like, Dad, can we, instead of going on our date this week, can we go on our date next week? Cause I really want to get that hoodie. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I want that hoodie
Yeah,
too. Let's go next week.
it's awesome.
So we kind of talked through it. Right. Her, and one thing that I've done too with dates is I've sometimes combined them with other kids because I'm like, oh, I would love to do this thing with more than one kid.
Yep.
And I was reminded just yesterday, our 3-year-old can get into the games and they let him get in free after a certain age or whatever. But they'll also give her a shirt. So I can get, buy 2 tickets, get 3 shirts, 3 hoodies. And my 11-year-old was like, you should take Hazel so that you can get an extra shirt. And then I was driving with Hallie, my oldest, and I was like, hey, would you be okay with us taking Hazel or would you prefer? She's like, I don't really care. As long as if Hazel comes though, we need to have another just you and me date. And I'm like, perfect.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
done. We're not going to take Hazel.
Good on her,
It's
man.
just going to be,
Good
it's just
on
going to be
her
me
to
and
set
you.
the, like,
Right.
no, this is standard, Dad.
Yeah. If that means
Love
if
it.
we're adding her in, then that takes away from our one-on-one time. And I was like, okay, sweet. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's just going to be me and you. We won't take Hazel. So anyway, long answer to your question of like the date night with my wife, 100% locked in. We're doing that unless we plan something different. And then with my kids, we're going around schedules but talking about it
Perfect.
so that they can kind of plan around it.
So it
And
doesn't
I
get
don't think
lost along.
honestly, those don't need to be like big, massive dates with my little kids. Like
Right.
honestly, going to the park and getting some ice cream and let's go to like
It's huge.
multiple different parks. That's
Yep.
it. Like they just want to go to the park with me, and play. And
Exactly.
I've got a funny story. So let me, this, you may get some value. Your listeners may get some value to this. So when I was growing up, I wrestled across all of Kansas. And we'd wake up early in the morning and my dad would take me and my older brother that wrestled and we would drive, a couple hours to some small podunk town and we'd have a wrestling tournament. And on the way home, my dad would ask me the question or ask us the question, depending if it was just me and my dad or me and my brother and my dad. He'd say, do you want to talk about girls or do you want to talk about wrestling?
Love
And
it.
that was his introduction question to like, let's talk about life now. Let me check in, see how things are going for you. Right. And I love
I
that. That was
I
like,
love that question. I love
yeah.
that question because it's gonna be like, well, tonight it's girls. Let's talk about girls, Dad.
And he left it up to me. What do you
Yep.
want to do, Ashton? Well, let's talk about girls right now. Or, whatever, or school or
Awesome.
whatever. So I'm on a date with one of my daughters and we're well, the week before, I'm on it where it was nighttime, and I was showing my daughter like the Orion's belt, and we were looking for the Big Dipper and stuff. And we downloaded an app that you can show and see all the constellations and go find Mars, and you know what I mean? Like, it was cool. It was fun. So the next week, my other daughter heard about it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And we were talking, and I was like, "So tell me, how's life going?" And she was like, "Stars." And I was like, well, what's school like? Like, how's school been? And how's that going? She was like, moon. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, you're doing soccer and stuff. Like, how's things going on the soccer time? She's like, more stars. So I said, Jane, do you want to talk about life or the galaxy? And she's like, the galaxy. And I was like, okay, let's talk about the galaxy. So now, instead of like on my days, I'll often just start asking questions about how life is going and stuff like that. But if I ever need an introduction to like, hey, I want to talk now, instead of just, little things, like I'll ask all my kids know about that story. And so now I'll ask, hey, do you want to talk about life, or do you want to talk about the galaxy? And that's my opener to like, hey, like, we can have a deeper, more meaningful conversation right now if you want. And hopefully that sticks forever. It's not, I think my dad's is better. Do you want to talk about girls or wrestling? But either way, we can work it in. And maybe I'll talk about, do you want to talk about life, boys, or the galaxy? Maybe I add an extra one in there.
Right. Yeah. Some of your older ones,
kids.
it's time to start talking about boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are fun conversations, man. But having that open communication with kids is absolutely priceless.
So important. So
Absolutely
important.
priceless.
Yeah. Let me go back to the work, because you've asked me about work, and not that I've been dodging it, but I've been talking about the way that you don't let work overpower everything else, is these other things. But in work, I talk about the light switch analogy of turning your brain on and turning your brain off. When it's time to be at work, I'm always working to provide for my family, and my why's my family. And I think you should have a bag of whys, more than just one why. But there's times when it's time to be off of home and to be on work, similar to the idea of keeping your phone off until 8 or 9 o'clock or whatever, so that you get these other things done. When it's time to be on work, it's also time to be off of those other things. And sometimes there's some communication that needs to be had. I want my wife and my kids to go to all the barbecues that they're invited to on Saturday, but I'm in sales and in-home sales. Most people are home on Saturday. So Saturday is actually a really big work day for me. And I try to take other time where it's not as big of a work day, but Saturday is a big work day. When I was in the throes of door to door and out there, I would tell my wife, hey, listen, I want you to go to the barbecue. I want you to go to the beach when our friends invite you to the beach. And I want you to take pictures, and I don't want you to I don't want you to call me and say, hey, we got invited to the beach, or we got invited to the barbecue. I just want you to go. Are you okay with that? Just you and the girls, you guys go, because I need to focus on work. This is like my most important day. And not that I don't want to be there, because I do want to be at the beach, and I do want to be at the barbecue, and I do want to be at all these things. But for us right here, right now, this is my most important time. And so unless it's like a big emergency, or one of our kids is like, you got to come, Dad, or are crying or whatever, can you please like help me by protecting this time of my work, and you guys go have all the fun. And that's a conversation that we had to have, and we had to have a couple of times, because it was the most important time for me, and in that moment, and that communication was helpful, right? And there's other times where I'll go into a project, and I love my wife more than anyone on the earth and the world, but I'll also sometimes be like, hey, I need to be really focused for the next 4 hours. If there's something that you need and it's an emergency, please, I'll answer your call, or I'll respond to your text. But if it's something that you don't need, I'm going to be all in, zoned on this project. And if it can wait, then let's see if it can wait, and we'll talk about it later. And having that kind of communication of like I'm telling you right now, I'm turning my whole brain on to work right now. Not that I don't want to talk about, plans for the weekend, because I do, but if I can not take my brain off of that focus, right? Because then I got to refocus again and get my brain going again. If I can somehow figure out how to do that, then I'm going to be better off, and my whole family's going to be better off. And most likely the thing that she may have wanted to talk about in the middle of the day wasn't all that important, and it could be talked about in 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours from now, right? And so some of that being effective
can I
at
jump
work.
in right there?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That's so powerful. I think there's two things there, at least the way I see things and in my perspective is like there's two things there that are absolutely critical or won't work. And your principle and practice is fantastic, right? We have to have that kind of communication. But as I'm listening to this, I'm like, yes, dialed in. But then I'm like, ooh, there's two things that have to be true in order for that to work. Number one, we have to give our wives all the time and attention they deserve and want and need when we're not focused at work. Because if we're negligent, we're distracted, if I'm on my phone, if I'm playing video games or watching TV, or I'm not paying attention to her, and then I say, babe, you can't interrupt me, ooh, not going to work. The second thing is if I ask her, hey, babe, don't call me and don't distract me so I can be focused, and then she finds out that I'm not being focused, I'm not getting results, I'm distracted by something else, or I'm not, creating real results.
Yeah.
It won't work either. Because you'll be like, are you kidding me? You're asking me not to reach out to you so you can get work done, and then you don't get work done?
Yeah.
Unacceptable, right? I think those two elements have to be true for this caliber of an awesome conversation and boundary to work.
Yeah. 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 And I'm not perfect. And it's always a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
Because things are going to come up. The second part of what you just said, like yesterday, I got distracted, man. Sports stuff and other things, and I'm supposed to be in the zone, and I'm trying to be dialed, and I'm doing my best. And sometimes, like, oh, dude, that looks really cool. So let me go check that out real quick and see that sports player, and dang it. And then I'm like, hey, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Is this really, the most value right this second? No. Exactly. A question that I've asked, so here's a question that pulls me back into what I need to be doing right now is this serving me?
Yep.
And I mostly ask this in a work setting. Is this serving me right now? Is this the most important thing? And some people use the acronym WIN. What's important now, right? Mm-hmm. Is this my win, or is this serving me? And because you can go down some, like, it's easy to go down rabbit holes of things, right? I can do busy work and I can do paperwork, but there's other people maybe that I could ask to do the busy work and me do the real stuff that's going to turn the engine. But I'm getting distracted work, but it's just not serving me like something else could be serving me. And I could ask somebody else to maybe help me do this thing or whatever, but it feels nice and it's easy to get things done, even though they're not like the most important things to get done, And so that question pulls me back in. Is this serving me right now? Is this serving me right here? And I'll when I'm on ESPN.com, that's when I'm asking myself, is this serving me? Do I need to be watching this women's tennis match? This women's tennis highlight or this men's tennis highlight? Like, is this serving me? Like, I like tennis, but I'm not like a hardcore tennis, but it sounds like a cool shot. Wait a minute, dude, this isn't serving me. I'm not supposed to be doing this right now.
They had some kind of like, some kind of alert that could pop up every time we get on something and say like, hey, is this serving you? Hey, Greg, is this serving you right now? Like, no, it's not. Let's go get back. Such a great question. Such a great question. Let me just ask one more question related to this. What do you feel like gives you a competitive advantage in your field? Like what's one thing that you've done or doing that just works, man, for creating real results?
That's a great question. I studied this a bunch because I'm trying to create this sales course for new sales reps, first year sales reps. And I've had people point out to me some things that they feel like I've done. And then as I've like observed and looked at other people, I think it is a real formula for success. And lots of times people will have a ton of talent and they won't work very hard because they can get by on their ton of talent. And then there's other people that don't have a ton of talent but work their guts out, and they also will get the results that they want. It's rare to have a combination of both of those. And where I feel like and I think some of it, oh, look at these, I'm getting some balloons over here. What the heck? Some of these I think come from some of my wrestling background. That one of the things that's so
Yes.
great about wrestling is it's an individual sport. It's you and one other guy. There's a ref out there. Sometimes he makes a mistake, but you got to be better. You got to take it out of the ref's hands. It's you're accountable to you, and you win or you lose. If you lost, it was your fault. If you win, it's your fault. You know, in a lot of regards, you're the same weight.
Total
You weigh
ownership.
in college. I weighed in within 0.1 of a pound of almost every single one of my competitors. We weighed the exact same. You know, and so it comes down to your work ethic and to your skill. So those two things I think have really been what has helped me out a lot. Is that but I also don't consider myself like the best sales guy in the world. Like I consider myself one of the best. Let me take that back. I consider myself one of the best in the world at door-to-door solar sales, and I've got data to prove that too. But like as far as like persuasion and slick sales guy, I'm actually not that guy. I've developed a ton of that though over time, and I've beat on my craft. And to be really successful, like ultra successful in your work career, you've got to develop talent and then continue working. Some guys will naturally be talented and they don't work all that hard. If they really want to get to the next level, they got to put in a ton of work with their natural talent, and it'll skyrocket. The people that don't start out with a lot of talent, that can be developed. Like you can
Yep.
develop and you can learn whatever craft it is. I had a carpet recycling business for a little while. I was one of the best carpet recycling guys in the world. Who knows about carpet recycling? You know what I mean? Like
I didn't
there's
even
only
know
a
it was a
handful of
thing.
us. Yeah, there's only a handful of us anyway, so it's easy to be one of the best in the world at it. But I studied it and I learned, and I was trying to become understanding all the aspects of it so that I could become one of the best in the world. And you can become one of the best in the world if you put enough effort into it, even if you don't start out. I knew nothing about carpet. I know way more about carpet right now than I've ever wanted to know, right? But you can become whatever it is that you're set out to become, even if you don't have the talent to begin with, as long as you beat on your craft and trying to learn that, but then not lose sight of what got you where you are, right? If you
Yes.
become really talented and then you're like, well, man, I used to go out and prospect for like 7 or 8 hours a day, but I only needed to go out like 3 or 4 hours a day now to get the same result. Well, what if you did go out for 7 or 8 hours a day? You'd be twice as good, instead of settling for what you had before. Because you're better now, why don't you keep working really hard? And then
Right.
you can, it's not like you're missing out on a lot of life if you were planning your life properly around your work. Uh, then you could be in a great place. So those two things, those have been
That's
things
it.
that have really helped me.
That's such a simple and powerful equation.
Super
Put in the
simple.
work, really, really earn it through work, and then really earn it through skill or talent development.
Yeah.
Put those two
Yeah.
pieces together, pay the price, and you get the reward.
Pay the price and then continue to put in the work after you've paid the price for the talent, right? Once the talent
Okay.
acquisition is there. Steph Curry is an
Challenging
example.
question. Okay,
Okay, go
yes,
ahead. Go ahead.
he's awesome. He's a great
He still puts
example.
in the work. All I was going to say about Steph,
Oh,
everybody says he's the best shooter ever. The dude still puts in the work. Kobe Bryant
yep. Put
wins,
in the work.
gets second in the NBA, goes to the world, to represent the United States at the Olympics. He wakes up at like 4 a.m, gets a workout in before people are even woken up, right? Like
Yep.
still the most talented, but they put in the work. Sorry.
Put in the
Challenge.
work.
What was the challenge you were going to say?
So challenging question here. At what point do you purposely pull back when or okay, is there a point, and if so, at what point do you purposely pull back and not just keep chasing success at that pace? Is there a point where you deliberately, not because you're lazy, not because whatever, you're like, hey, I don't need to keep chasing this at this pace. You step back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
Great question. Tough question. And I talk about sacrificing at the right time. So I do think there's a time and a season for extra work. And it's mostly particularly at the start of something, I think. If you're in a new job, or if you're in a new job, or if you're in a new role at a new job, right? When I
You got to
became a
earn it.
VP, I earned the role, but in my mind, I had to re-earn and I had to show everybody that I was worthy of it. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
So
Yep.
the start of a new
Keep
goal or new
earning the seat.
position or whatever, yeah, I need them to know that like that I've earned this, and here's some of the reasons why. So sacrifice at the right time would be something that I would say to that, but it's hard to the challenge of that question is everybody's life circumstance is a little different,
Yep.
right? And
Let's do it
so
for
is
you.
it like,
You ever think there's a time in your life when you think like, you know what? I went after it. I won. It's time to work less. Again, this philosophical question out of the blue, just hypothetical. What do you think?
so for me, man, that's such a great question. Good job. You've stumped me. I don't get stumped on some of these sometimes,
No,
but you
and
got me.
again, it's kind of coming out of it and thinking through this like because I love achievement and I work with high achieving driven men. The guys listening to this are just go getters, and we love that stuff. And again, it's a philosophical big life question of like, hey, is there a time to on purpose take your foot off the gas to lean into other things?
Yeah. So here's what I'm struggling with is in in uh in how you measure life. It talks about that
Yeah,
money is
great
a
book.
hygiene factor, and then you work really hard for accomplishment and praise, and then you work for your legacy. So like, what's your legacy going to be long term? And I think that people work their guts out until they get to a certain amount of money. And then money's like more of a hygiene factor. Like, I need money to live. I need money to eat. I need money for those things. But I would say that my focus, not that I'm like not crazy independently wealthy. I'm not independently wealthy. I still working very hard for my money. But I think that
Well, you have to
my
because you live in Southern California.
yeah, I know it's expensive here. But I think my focus has changed from money driven to impact driven.
Beautiful.
And so as I transition to trying to get to more impact, I still put my foot on the gas, right? Like, I'm all in. I'm going hard because, but it's a different purpose. So
Right.
when was the point of when I took my foot off the gas for my personal gain versus my impact? It's probably honestly longer than most people think. You see all the stories of people that are making all this money and they have all these rental properties, and it's like, oh, it's easy. And it's not easy, man. I've lost a lot of money in investments, and I'm a smart guy, and I've researched a ton, and I put a ton of money in, and I've got nothing back. And
Yep. I think that happens to all of us. If you are investing, you're gonna lose some money.
you're going to lose. Yeah. And I've had more losers than I've had winners. And that's a heartbreak that's happened, but that's just part of the game. I'm playing the game. And so I think that sometimes when people look at like, if there's a number or a number of years of how much when should I take my foot off the gas in my life to continue to progress or grow, or where I need to have money, like, I think it's going to honestly take a little bit longer than most people think. So, for me, it's again, I've transitioned. I still need money because I still need to provide for everything. But I think I've shifted my pedal to the metal from like
I
making money to impacting
Yep.
people. And I
I
think if you
love
did
that.
that, if you do that sooner, right? If you're in sales, particularly, that's my field. And not even if you're an engineer and you're thinking, how can I impact my engineering firm versus how can I make more money? The side benefit is that you're actually going to probably make more money
Yeah,
because
and there's
you're
so much
impacting and
fulfillment
creating value. Yeah.
along the
And
way. Yeah,
fulfillment.
you're gonna add more value. You're gonna feel way better about it, and you're gonna earn more. I love
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
and I like there's a part of me that I say, look, I'm never gonna retire. I love what I do. I'm just gonna keep doing it. But
Yeah.
the purpose will change, and for me, like I shifted hours too. Here's why. This was several years ago. I read this report. You probably read this before. It's called the Top 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Mm.
And there was this nurse, Bonnie Ware. She was a nurse for 12 years with terminally ill patients, and she just would talk to them and listen to them as she's taking care of them. And it really goes along with How We Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. Excellent book. And so she goes through and she's like, these are the top 5. I heard this again and again and again, saw the patterns. It was amazing. And that the whole, there's an article we can read for the shorter version of the whole book. It's just absolutely amazing, of what they regretted. But the one thing that struck me with so much force when I read this, she said that every single male patient that she cared for, without exception, all said they wish they had worked less.
Wow.
Oh, deathbed clarity is a clarity that is unique and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and I talked about keeping work in check, being ambitious, being driven, but keeping it in check and putting first things first. But if every single one of them said that, I thought, man, I'm not going to wait till I get on my deathbed to look back. I'm going to keep looking back, and I'm going to keep looking forward with that kind of perspective. And I love my work. I never plan on retiring because I'm going to keep doing the work I love. But just philosophically, something for all of us to chew on.
Yeah.
Is making sure that that's in the right proportion and the right balance in life. And we're leaning in, just like you said so well, and the things you're doing so well already is like really addressing ourselves, mind, body, and spirit every morning, and putting our families right first, right where they belong.
Yeah. Something that's, this is kind of along your lines. It's interesting. The last, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, month and a half, maybe, I've been thinking about, that goes along with the idea of the guys dying and having, like, wanting to work less. I've thought really hard about a couple of things. I really want to have independence, like financial freedom, like really bad.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do. And I'm not that higher achiever guy that's like striving for that. And I've thought, you know what? If God really wanted me to have that, he could have told me to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin 20 years ago.
Jeez.
You know what I mean?
$50, $100 would have,
Yeah. $100 of
massive...
Bitcoin 20 years
Yeah.
ago, and I could be financially free right this second.
Yep.
And I bought a lot of stock, and I have, stock in one company in particular. At the time, 4 years ago, it was worth like 8 times what it is right now. And I thought, if God really wanted me to like pay off my house, he could have told me to sell that stock when it was at its peak, and I could have paid off my house. Right. So I thought those two things in particular have been, because the stock got so crazy high. Maybe it's not 5 or 10, 8 times, it's like 20 times more. It was amazing for a while, man. It was like so great. And now it's like whatever. But I thought, if God really wanted that, then those are options that could have legit happened. And then I've also thought, if I died tomorrow, and I'm not planning on dying tomorrow, but if I died tomorrow and I still have debts, and I still owe money on my house, and I still owe these things, like, life would be okay. My wife, it would be really hard. My wife would figure it out. My kids it would be difficult, not having their dad and all those things. But like, we get so worked up about all these things. And at the end of the day, like, most of it doesn't really matter. Like, I consider my dad the wealthiest person that I know. And it's not in money, but my dad is loved by everyone. I don't know a soul that doesn't love my dad. And when you meet him, it's like instantly, that's a cool guy. I want to be like him someday. Like, he is so wealthy, and it has nothing to do with money.
Yep.
So like, why are we chasing this money so hard if that's actually not what matters, and as not what the fulfillment's about, and that's not what all those things are about? It's because it's part of our society, and maybe it's more of an American thing. When I lived in New Zealand for a couple of years on my mission, they didn't care as much. Right? They walk around barefoot. Who cares? They'll wear the same outfit 3 or 4 days in a row. It doesn't matter. No one judges them. They don't judge it. They like whatever, And I don't know if it's different parts of the world is more of that, right?
I've
not
definitely
as,
seen that on all of our travels. Definitely seen a totally different culture around money.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I love that, man. And I love what you said about your dad. And what a blessing to have that man as your mentor and leader and father, to set that example. And you're right. Wealth is measured in so many other ways. It is powerful. And I hope everybody listening here does become rich and wealthy. But I think in this conversation, and as I think about it and you think about it, let's keep money in its place. Go get it, man. Yeah. Go get it. Be an investor. Be a businessman. Just crush it. Be the best in your industry. But let's keep that sucker right where it belongs, which is below our family.
all the other
and
things. Yeah.
wellness, right? I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, any last thoughts that you want to share for family men who are listening? Any last piece of
Man, we've
wisdom
gone
or
through so
advice?
much. Dude, I have been grateful for our conversation, and I love that we're so in sync on so many different ways. I guess the only last thing that I would say to anybody that's listening around these things is to keep going. There are people that stop when they're 35 years old and then they're like, I've thrown in the towel on my health because it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna get a belly, and that's actually not true. You don't have to stop exercising, stop eating healthy. And there are times I've seen, and I've got friends that are getting divorces, and friends that are losing their faith in God, and friends that are having different challenges. And I feel like the reason that those challenges have happened is because they stopped. They stopped remembering the love that they had for their wife when they first got married. And they kind of became a little more selfish of like, well, I've been putting up with this for 20 years. I want to do it my way now. And instead of being like, hey, let's continue to work on this together. Don't stop. Don't stop with your relationships. Don't stop with your health. Don't stop with your work. You're not also set. That people get ultra wealthy after 60 years old because they wrote a book or they found out some invention or they did whatever. Like, you don't have to just feel like, okay, well, I'm this person right now and it's not exactly what I wanted to be, but I'm kind of too late to learn something new. No, you're not. You could totally go learn whatever you want. So whatever it is that you really want, and in those areas that we've kind of focused on, don't stop. Keep going. And if you keep moving, the only time you lose, I think, in sales and life, in relationships, is when you stop. You're winning or you're learning, and you lose if you stop. So just don't stop. That'd be my last little bit of
Yeah.
encouragement.
Yeah.
Amen. Well,
Nailed it.
amen. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. Really loved it.